all three be on here?
We can. You just have to be friendly.
No. This is my least favorite part. I'm having to cramp in with people.
I think we're good there.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
All right. Yep.
It'll be perfect. It's
We're
primarily a podcast. Is the video secondary?
Yeah. All right, we're ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Healthy Business Podcast. I'm Ty King from the American Business Engine. With me today, as always, is
Jessica Tolliver, Cam Collaborative.
Camp Collaborative. And we have a third seat here. Would you like to introduce yourself? Dr.
Grant Dennis.
Dr.
With
Grant
the specific
Dennis.
chiropractic centers.
And so it's always, do they call you Dr. Grant or do they call you Dr. Dennis?
You know, depends on who they is, but yeah, typically I always say just call me Grant.
So your friends or your enemies, they both call you different
Yeah,
things.
patients, I just tell them call me Grant.
There you go. So we're happy to have you here. We've got a lot of questions for you and what you do and your individual perspective on your specific perspective about that. And we'll get into more of that on business and running, a health business in particular. So.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm
For
glad
sure.
to be here.
Yeah. So, and being a healthy business is way more, so it's kind of a play on words, of course, because Jessica's in the health field. So,
Of course.
also, keeping a business healthy at the same time, like all the different things. Like you didn't become a chiropractor so that you could also be a bookkeeper and,
Right.
and do your own marketing, that type of thing, right? So
right, absolutely.
it just sort of comes with it. And so, like, what are some of the, we like to talk about what are some of the main points, going down the survey of like, okay, in order to have my business operational and functioning exactly like it should be, we should check off this, and this. These are the health points we look for. Kind of like if you're checking somebody's perverted break, you're like, okay, these are the stress signs I'm looking for,
Absolutely.
and everything's working. So we're going to address a lot of those questions. Yeah, Jessica, you want to kick us off with those?
Well, I invited Dr. Grant here. I call him Dr. Grant because he has a specific, unique interest in his business. Yeah, probably.
Oh, I get it all the
all
time.
day
but
long.
I embrace it though, because it's
Okay.
I love it.
It's
Yeah,
branding.
no,
As
it
long
doesn't
as you're
bother me
not
at all.
like I regret that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he has a business within a national organization, so national chain.
Sure.
And that can be, sometimes there can be pitfalls or different things, different challenges that come with that. And I thought our listeners would enjoy that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I serve as full-time clinic owner of the Specific Chiropractic Centers here in Little Rock, which is a part of a clinic system. It's a franchise structure of upper cervical specific clinics, which means we specialize just in the upper neck, which a lot of people don't actually know exists, is within the chiropractic space. There's a specialty where one would only focus on just the upper two bones in the neck. And so we have a clinic structure, and it's a franchise structure of currently 16 offices around the U.S. We've had as many as 22 with COVID and some turnover there. We had some clinics consolidate, especially in the California area, as you can imagine, or even fall off and choose to go outside of the franchise structure, which is totally fine. But yeah, I mean, to your point, a lot of people look at the franchise structure as a negative, and they see that as okay, it's not mom and pop, or it's not local anymore.
Right.
Now it's a chain, right, or it's a corporate
Sure.
structure. And I think what oftentimes a lot of people forget is that the only time you would ever look at a franchise structure or a franchise model is if you were looking to move from a growth to a scale model. Because if you look at the best franchises out there, which we study a lot, namely Chick-fil-A, most of the time you think about a restaurant, right, or a restaurant chains when you think of franchise models.
Right.
But
Massage Envy.
Right. Places like that, and it gets interpreted funny. And I think the biggest reason why a franchise structure, for viewers to understand, is if you're looking at, do I want to be kind of local, mom and pop, or maybe versus something that's more of a corporate, structure. The only reason it would make sense to look at a franchise model is if you are looking to scale multiple locations. The reason that's important is because you have to have systems, infrastructure, processes, more importantly, brand integrity to scale that can be controlled. So one of the things that Steve Robinson talks about, who is the chief marketing officer for Chick-fil-A, who is really, really vital in kind of making Chick-fil-A go from a small mall-driven place to a franchise across the nation that everybody, and even the world, that everyone recognizes, was he was like, we've got to have a way to control our brand.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if people walk into somewhere, they know what they're going to get and what they're going to expect to get what they get because that brand can be controlled. So, for example, when you buy into the Chick-fil-A franchise, you're under the assumption you're not going to serve burgers.
Right.
You're not going to serve donuts. You can't, because you're bound to a franchise structure. You can't say, hey, we're going to charge $5.80 for a chicken sandwich, but down the road they're going to charge $4.80, because that would create a conflict, right? So what it allows for is parameters to be put in place to allow your business to not only grow, but then scale multiple places. So that involves training, the right way to train, the right way to serve things. In other words, there's a right way to do everything. And some people get drawn away from that at first, but if you understand that that's actually vital for growth of multiple locations, then it makes more sense to look at, like, do I want to operate just within the realms of my office, or do I want to scale multiple things? And in that case, then you'd want to look at a franchise model that can help you escalate that quicker. And you also got to remember, too, if you're going to train all these people, that's a time factor. So I can't train multiple doctors. It would make more sense to buy into a system that has a corporate structure to train people, because time's the commodity. And anytime you look at a growth versus scale model, is how much time do I have, and who can I hop on, what train can I get on to get me there quicker?
Right.
That makes sense.
No, perfectly. And like you're saying, with the franchises for restaurants, like Ray Kroc, when he was designing the franchise model for McDonald's, it was basically, here's a handbook where anybody can fill this position. And so it's kind of interesting that there can be a franchise for chiropractic practices, because like you've got to be able to you're a specialist, right? So you obviously went to college, you went to medical school, and you have your degree, and you're an actual doctor. So this isn't just some kid coming in out of high school that's flipping burgers, because they read the handbook. And so how's that for you? Like, you've got to have some sort of free way to have your own creativity and come up with your own solutions and
absolutely. Right? Yeah, and the people you serve. I think that's where a lot of times, too, it's important to recognize if you're going to be within a franchise structure, it also, one of the things you have to look at early on is, but is it also going to allow me to work within the parameters of my personality?
Sure.
And is it going to allow me to brand my clinic in a way that it's serving my ideal client? Because I particularly like to target people with migraines, people with really chronic conditions that they can't get answers for. Well, I have to be able to have bandwidth, or I have to be able to have a little bit of leeway in the way that my clinic's going to be structured to serve those people. For example, don't want high lighting, don't want a lot of stimulus. Yeah. So the franchise also in that way has to put in parameters that allows me to be unique in the way that I target people, treat people, and who I take care of. So it can't be so corporate structured that the corporation can tell you how your clinic has to look.
Right.
So there can be some things that have to be able to give you some leeway, some creativity with that. And so within our clinics, for sure, we give our doctors the ability, and our franchisees the ability to build out their clinics in a way that it's suited to. So for example, I serve migraine patients. It wouldn't make sense for me to target kids with neurodevelopmental delays, right? Like ADHD, hyperactive kids, but some of our clinics do. And so that clinic structure is going to look a little bit different in the way that the clinic's operated, the way that it looks, the way that it feels, versus mine. Like, the worst thing that a migraine client wants is a kid running around screaming and yelling. That's not great for a migraine scenario. So because we're serving two different markets, our clinics must operate a little bit differently, but they can do that, and they can still operate under the same brand in the way that the clinical applications provided. It's just within the structure can be a little different. So we give our franchisees the freedom to be able to operate within the realm they want to operate in, but also provide them the structure to be able to not only bring in other associate doctors who have separate people they attract, but also be able to have separate clinics in different locations, but that all operate under the same brand, so that at the end of the day, when a person approaches and they see, oh, there's a specific here, that should mean something. That branding should mean, okay, good quality upper cervical care. It's probably going to be a little bit more expensive than other types of care, but it's because I have a really chronic condition that's really interfering with my life. When you say chiropractic franchise, a lot of people think about like the joint. The joint's the only other chiropractic franchise. Yeah. And the joint's necessary, and in fact, we refer quite a bit. And it's an avenue I've looked to get in because they serve a population of people that need to be served, but are just not the population that I serve. Okay. And so, like with Jessica, if someone were to come into me and they're outside the realm of what I feel like I can give them, it's my job as a trusted health professional to refer them to somebody who's better suited for that. And so the two franchise models just are different models that approach things from a different perspective, but are both necessary.
For sure.
I imagine going into a franchise also takes away a lot of the hit and miss, the trial and error. You come in with the specifics of what a good healthy business looks like, and all you have to do is fill in those goals.
Absolutely. You got all your SOPs, your systems and processes. A lot of times I find when people go to look at a franchise, they don't really look and appreciate like what are the systems and processes I'm buying into that make it unique, that make it not only hopefully foolproof because they've been proven, and they're a way for a reason. Like there's a reason that Chick-fil-A made the move from malls to brick and mortar. was because they recognized that the people we actually look to attract aren't in malls.
Mm-hmm.
They're outside the malls. So we have to get outside the malls and go to where our people are. And it's kind of the same thing in a franchise is you want to, first off, who are the people you're trying to serve? And then what am I trying to serve them with? And so if you're a service-based professional, one of the number one things I think people miss out on is systems are just basically broken down into 3 or 4 things. You have your sales, marketing, money mindset, business management, and then there's processes under that make you unique. You know, in other words, we use computerized infrared thermography as part of our clinical approach to things, which is kind of like an EKG measures heart function. It measures central nerve system function. Well, that's proprietary to us. That's a clinical process that is unique to us. So if you're not trained in that, then that's a problem, right? Because that's unique to the franchise. It's kind of like Chick-fil-A sauces. And I know I keep alluding to them, but it's just easy to make the connection because the reason that, in my opinion, Chick-fil-A is as dominant as they are is because they're very clear on our franchise and our brand is what it is, and we don't deviate from it. And so it allows us to maintain really good brand integrity to where when people drive by and they see the sign on the highway that says there's a Chick-fil-A here, I know immediately when I drive through what I'm getting, and I don't have to wonder about that. That's the pitfalls, I think, or the negatives sometimes to a mom and pop. And it's not that it's a negative. It's just that sometimes you don't know what you're going to get because it's a unique person.
Sure.
And it's a personality-driven approach versus a systems-driven approach. And that's where if you're going to go sell a business at some point, you can't sell, and it's very difficult to sell a business that's personality-driven because you can't replicate yourself. If you have a systems-driven business, which is why franchises are so nice, and it's oftentimes why they're the most bought out things is because someone can buy in and they can buy a system and they can replace people or they can keep the same people, but it's not so personality driven, it's more systems driven. I think that's the biggest thing. If you're looking at, do I want to be more of a mom and pop singular location versus franchise structuring, that also has to be brought into play is what's the end game. I mean, are you looking to sell these? Are you looking to operate them into infinite? You know, I'm also investing in a company called Everbowl, which is an acai bowl franchise currently. We're looking at opening 7 locations. Wow. The reason that we would do that is because it's a vertical for what I do, but also I understand the franchise structure, and the end game on that is to build them up and sell them.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. So when you were coming out and you had your license and you decided to open your first clinic, was it always the idea that I would go into a franchised clinic, or did you think that you were going to open up your own singular mom and pop type of situation?
Yeah. Well, you know, every doc when they come out of chiropractic school thinks they're to a T. They all think they're just, you know, the best chiropractor to ever come out of school. It's so easy to go. And honestly, teachers and professors feed into that. Like, oh, put your shilling up, you're a doctor, people will come in your clinic. And we all know that's not how it works. No. And so one of the things I struggled with for a long time was I can just go do it on my own. And then I came to this realization that for me personally, I wanted to attach to a greater vision that was bigger than myself. And so because of that, I felt like, do I want to leave, you know, a business behind, or do I want to leave a legacy behind? Right. To me, the difference is when I leave this earth, I want the clinic that I build to be still serving the people after I'm gone. So I came to this realization that dentist chiropractic, or whatever you call it, when I die, disappears. Mm-hmm. And it becomes Smith Chiropractic, or it becomes Tolliver Chiropractic, or it becomes something different, right? And so that was sad to me, and it was a realization I made. But if I attached to something that was more of a, you know, for example, the vision at the specific chiropractic centers is to create access to good quality upper cervical care around the world, which is why we have international outreach foundation programs we do that our patients, when they come in and get care, part of their proceeds go to fund that. Okay. It's to create access for people that need care in other places that are underserved. Well, that's going to far outlive and leave a long-lasting impact and a legacy far past me. So if my goal when I, you know, retire is to have 5 clinics within the state of Arkansas, make the state a better place than when I came, kind of like, and then try to find other businesses that have that same vision and attach on with them so that we can sort of have a host parasite to get us there. But more importantly, once I'm gone, the specific chiropractic center is not just a name. It means something as a brand, and it stands for something. That then doctors can come in after me that, you know, I can be a small piece in the starting of it, but it can live far outside of just me. And so once I started understanding that, I was like, well, then it would make sense to find a brand that has a vision that resonates with you and attach to it. You know, no matter what it is, you know, Chick-fil-A has one, Everbowl has one, Burger King, McDonald's, right? They all have their branding and their visions, and you have the Ronald McDonald House and things like that. And I think if there's a greater vision or a greater, you know, outlook on what the company's trying to do, that I think just in today's times for sure, people are looking to invest in something that's for the greater good. We're
Sure.
kind of in, if you've ever read the book Pendulum, talks about I versus we societies.
Mhm.
We're in the pinnacle of a we society right now. And so what that means is it means that people are wanting to do something that's for the greater good,
Yeah.
which thank goodness, because of COVID over the last couple of years, if we weren't in that, I'm not sure how the world would look right now. It would be a every man for himself thing.
Sure, yeah.
But, for me, I think the biggest thing is just trying to understand, where do you fit in that realm of, and what is the company, what's the vision behind it, what's the greater cause? Because then that's going to get you through those little finite early years that are tough. Because it's attached to a greater meaning that's far outside of just you, because yes, it is tough in the beginning, no doubt about
sure.
it, and to start with anything.
Well, when I first started in massage therapy, and you get your license, you come out, I'm going to rule the world, I had to choose a business name. And one of the reasons I chose Massage Arkansas was because I looked around at my environment, and in Arkansas, I'm not from Arkansas, so I had a lot of new things to learn. Everything is like the doctor's building, chiropractic care. There's actually a restaurant called Chinese food. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so that people
Very
resonate
literal.
with that hometownness. So I chose, and I thought, I don't want to be just me. I want to be something bigger. And Massage Arkansas. That is now, I can't sell Jessica's Massage, but I can sell Massage Arkansas if I build it into something. So that was, I understand that mindset. I've always thought that I might be there and had made choices to get me there if that's the path I decided to take.
Yeah, absolutely. I think ego is the toughest one, right? Like, it's a lot of people it's very egocentric, and I think that's tougher because it really makes it difficult in those early years if it's just a self-serving versus, and it reminds me of like what I've written a book, and so like one of the things they always told us, my coach through my book writing process was, it's very difficult to do this. The only thing that's going to get you through is if you always keep the reader in mind that you're writing it for. There's somebody out there that has to hear that message. Well, if you keep that in your head, it's really easy to kind of get through the beginning stages of it, because you're like, okay, if I don't get this out there, literally every day that I'm behind, somebody misses the message. And if it's a big enough message, it could cost lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is kind of what I feel like is the attachment, is it's kind of like the vision, back to the vision, is that's what allows small businesses early on to get through, like the Tacos for Lives, right? Where it's, for every taco you buy, we donate a taco. So for every day we don't get this done, somebody in Africa suffers from world hunger. That's a really good motivator, I think, for early small business owners and service providers. I would just encourage you, if you're in that phase of startup, finding a vision attached to it that's greater than just dollars in your bank account and your business flourishing, which is important because without it, you can't help people. But I think if you can find that vision early on, and if the brand attaches to it, those are the factors that come into play when you look at franchise versus a smaller mom and pop location, or I hate saying that term, it's more of a small business owner versus an entrepreneur.
We've actually talked about that before, that if your business can't make money when you're not there, you're not an entrepreneur.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and a lot of people,
Right.
It's a really sexy thing nowadays for the entrepreneurship, the word entrepreneur. Everybody loves and wants to be entrepreneurs right now. We're in this realm of
Gig economy, all that.
yeah, it's like in the tech world, the millennial world, it's cool to be an entrepreneur. But it's also cool to be a small business owner. What's not cool is to not know what the difference is.
Right.
I think I run into
Yeah.
people all the time who like, I want to work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Well, then you're not an
It's just a
entrepreneur.
job.
You're a small business owner. And then there's
Yeah.
other people who are like, I don't care when I work. I just work all the time. And I don't make anything my first 2 years. And
Exactly,
I'm okay
yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Well, might be more in the entrepreneur. It's also okay to be both.
Yeah.
But it's just the understanding and the awareness of what is it you actually want to be, and do you understand what the difference is? I just find a lot of times people who are in the struggle in their own head is because they think they're small business owners, but they're actually entrepreneurs. Or they think they're entrepreneur, but they're actually a small business owner.
Right. Yeah.
And so the blending of the two and the understanding of what you are is critical, because then that also can help you make the decision on a mom and pop versus a franchise model for sure.
For sure. I always bring up Michael Gerber in our talks in here. So he wrote the book called The E-Myth, and it was like the entrepreneurial myth.
Love that. Yep, love that book.
Is that the myth is that when you start a small business that you are an entrepreneur. But the truth is that like it starts with an entrepreneurial thought.
Right.
But then from there forward, you may or may not be an entrepreneur. So you may
Right.
just be a small business owner. Like I said, it's fine. You can be both. You can
Right.
be both. So we have all those parts in our brains, and like depending on the situation you're handling, you might have to fulfill several different roles or wear different hats.
I love how you articulated that, though. It's just saying the difference
For
between
sure.
an entrepreneur and a small business owner is.
Yeah.
We've talked about that, but never used those terms in that way. So I do
Right.
like that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's one thing chiropractors struggle with a lot is, what am I?
Mhm.
And if you want to scale multiple locations, then you must be entrepreneurial mindset. And if you're not, you need to hire someone who is.
Right.
To me, it's the self-awareness of what do I operate best in, and then I have to hire people that offset my capabilities.
Yeah.
You know, that's what also a franchise can do for you is if they have a COO, a CFO, or multiple franchisees or regional directors, then we can have multiple places operated by them, and I can just operate in my best world, which is inside the one clinic. So that they're actually both needed in order for them to succeed.
Right. I like what you said earlier about how we're sort of a we society now, you know, instead of, you know.
Yep.
So the pandemic's changed a lot of things, how we hire, you know, employers side, employees side, that type of thing. And like you were talking about with businesses trying to find a way to give back and become sort of the we mentality, like Tacos for Life, you know, you buy a taco, we give you a taco. Like there's even, it stretches out across all the industries. And so like I just started playing a new video game, and the developers of that game said if you reach this trophy, we plant a tree in like a part of a forest that's been damaged by wildfires or something like that.
Brilliant.
And I was like, yeah, I know, right?
Well,
It's
and
great.
it actually leads into, ties a little bit back, is that people think that they're doing something good with their time, effort, energy, then they're more likely to do it. So if there's two games side by side, and this one plants trees and this one doesn't,
Yeah.
which game are you more likely to be a person more likely to be attracted to?
For sure.
Absolutely. It's brilliant, actually, yeah.
And with you wanted to, okay, so like what you were saying with your franchise, you want to be part of something bigger, and obviously you're making an impact on society. And so like we just had that conversation this morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody wants to feel like they're contributing something to the world. That's just part of our psychology and the way that we're wired. When you mentioned like sometimes when clients come to you and it may not be your specialty, or you think that somebody else could do a better job, you know, for them, and you want to offer that. How do you pick your referral partners for that?
Oh, man, that's a good one. Gosh, that's a good one. You know, I think the first thing is you try to find people who serve the same ideal client.
Yeah.
They just utilize it in a different way. And a lot of people, man, like if there's one thing I see across the board, not enough business owners are willing to collaborate and leverage other professionals. They want to be the end-all, be-all.
Yes.
And so in dealing with, like for me personally, dealing with super sick people with chronic debilitating health conditions, it's not as easy as me being their only person. A lot of times they need several people on their team in order for them to help navigate that thing. And so the first thing you have to come to the realization is just put your ego aside and say, I am not the end-all, be-all.
Right.
I'm a piece of the equation, you know? And so then I have to figure out who are the other people that think like me, which is not everybody. I'm sure you can have this experience. You know, you talk to people and you can see that, you know, I'm of the opinion that in order for you to get referrals, you must first give them.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a synergistic relationship of I understand that what you do helps this client also. And a lot of people think like, okay, I'm a chiropractor. And the common one is, okay, I need to go like, you know, network with, you know, another massage therapist, and that's certainly important. But I network a lot with like salon owners. I network a lot with like pastors, because people with common health conditions, they go and talk to their pastor. And their pastor may have an answer for them, and it may be me and it may not. But I think the other thing is thinking outside the box of, you know, like I look at more, instead of referral partners, more distribution channels is what I prefer to call them, which is more so, you know, you can have the best hammer in the world, right? A hammer that just every single time hits the nail on the table.
Sure.
But if I don't get it into Lowe's and if I don't get it into Home Depot, then it's not going to go very far because I have to have widespread distribution. So what I think in terms of is who are distribution partners and who am I a distribution partner for? You know, and then if I can understand that I'm one for them and they can be one for me, then we're going to create a long-lasting relationship, not so much around the ability for us to refer back and forth, but in the ability that we believe in what each other does so much and we know it can help people. It's our job to play quarterback and get them. So a prime example of this, I'm an upper cervical doc. So if someone calls in because they see chiropractic on my shingle with a hot low back, and like they bent over that weekend and they heard a pop in their low back and they got tingling going down their legs, like you clearly have some sort of acute issue, right? This isn't suited for me. This is going to be much better suited for like a Jessica or someone who deals with acute things. So I need to get you out of pain today, and I'm not the best fit for you. So I'm going to refer to that. But then there's also going to be a time where someone calls, you know, that same person and says, hey, I have chronic migraine. And they're like, okay, it's not exactly down my wheelhouse, but I know someone who is. And so if you can just create one for one with 10 different people, that's 10 new clients a month that you do zero marketing dollars to gain that are ideal simply off the fact that you understand who they are and who they're meant to serve. They understand who I'm meant to serve, and it's actually sometimes going to be the same person. And so you create these distribution channels, and it's not from the standpoint of always trying to get, but more importantly to give. Because there's nothing worse. I know you can speak to this too. When someone comes in and you don't know who to send them to. you don't have someone you trust, you don't, and then it's like, okay, now I have to kind of Google search and find someone that's not a great fit probably. That makes me feel uncomfortable. So it's always comforting to have somebody in your strategic network, and that's the term people use, which it's correct, but I look at it more as distribution. Who can I send them to and be a distribution channel for them? So that not only, it makes that person happy because they get what they're looking for,
Right.
but I'm actually the hero in that because I'm the one who got them to the right place,
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good. And sometimes I think people get it twisted that I've got to fit the square peg in the round hole when it comes to a client. You don't. You just have to find sometimes who those people in your network are that can help them more so than you sometimes.
Well, and that garners trust, and then that person does have migraine problems or knows someone who does, they're coming back to you.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually the inspiration. We've talked this in the past. That's the inspiration for Cam Collaborative, is to create a space where people can go and learn about other providers and get those referrals. They don't know that they need a upper cervical chiropractor. Does that even exist in their world?
Right.
So we're all about collaboration, encouraging collaboration and getting people to the right providers.
Right. Just want to be the most trusted health advisor for
Yeah.
people, right? I think if people to the point of trust, anytime someone encounters me, that's the number one thing I always like to ask is this person standing in front of me for me? Or are they for somewhere else?
Right.
And then building trust, and that's part of branding, I think, is it's not a sleazy, salesy type of atmosphere. It's they genuinely care and want to get what's best for you, and it may not be them. That's what I think is trust, credibility, and then when people view you more importantly as the most trusted health advisor on all things, then they're going to come to you with a lot of things, which opens up the door for you to be a referral source to a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to bring up. I was like, because with us, it's like you may have somebody come in for some sort of, a realignment or something like that, and it's like they're complaining about other things in their life, like their business or something, and like you'd be like, oh, well, you know what? I know somebody that does websites, and that's when you refer them over to me, and like I hear the same thing too. Like, I don't know why, but like being in marketing, I hear all the problems from my clients, like especially small business owners. So, man, I'm the therapist / marketing professional, so
Yep.
I hear like all kinds of stuff that they're looking for. But the good thing about doing all the networking and building my own, intertwined, network of businesses that I'm connected with, is that I know whenever I hear this problem, say they're an outdoorsy type, you know what I mean? Like, well, I know somebody that does ATV sales you might want to talk to. And like, I know this person and I've talked to them extensively. I trust this person,
Right.
or else I wouldn't refer that client over there to them.
Yeah, and you give a good referral, they're going to come back to you for more good
Yeah.
referrals.
Absolutely.
Right.
There's nothing worse than than either getting or giving a bad referral. Nothing that can really cripple your business worse.
I don't know 100% because we don't actually talk specifics, but specifics. This is the thing. I've sent several clients to you, and across the board, anyone who has agreed for his services have had life-changing results. I have never sent a bad referral, other than they just maybe didn't want to go through the program.
Sure.
But because I took the time to learn about it. I learned about the history. He's passionate about what he does, so we have that kinship. So my clients that come to see me that are wanting someone who's passionate, but maybe not soft tissue work, I know that I can trust him to take good care of them.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Awesome. Jessica, do you have any more questions?
No, I think that about sums it up. I really appreciate you coming by.
Yeah,
I love
you
the
give them a lot to
perspective.
think about.
I appreciate you guys having me. I love the idea of Cam Collaborative. I think collaboration is it's so critical in today's times. It's just being able to collaborate and leverage with other people and allow their strong suits to come out, which overall serves the community better. It's nothing worse than a self-serving person in a self-serving community. And
it's not the 90s.
No, it's not. and we're going to shift back to the I society within the next couple 10, 15 years. And when we do, it'll pave the way for the Michael Jacksons and the Eminems and the one-man bands again. But for right now, it's the idea of Cam Collaborative is exciting. And I think it's good for the city of Little Rock, more importantly for the state of Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. If you are a audio listener on one of the many, many podcast services that are out there that are streaming this podcast, you can catch our faces on YouTube if you'd like. And if you're, of course, a video watcher on YouTube, and you all know that Podbean and the Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere you listen to your podcast, Spotify, we're on every channel. So be sure to look for the Healthy Business Podcast. And until next time, you guys will say bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Keep your business healthy.